Ladies and gentlemen, and the wanderers who refuse to be lost, welcome to the World's Mayor Experience. I'm your host, Joshua T. Berglan. For the new listeners, let me give you the lay of the land. We do not do small talk here. We do real talk. We strip away the corporate veneer and the media spin to get to the marrow of the human experience. I stand here as a man who has battled dissociative identity disorder and who navigates the world on the autism spectrum. But today, you're going to see something else. You might see me shaking. It isn't just my hands, it's my neck, my head, and my entire body. You might hear the struggle in my speech. These are not just tremors. This is my body reacting to the world in a way that most people can't imagine. I feel every frequency. It's painful. It's exhausting too. And it's a daily battle just to speak into the microphone. But I refuse to hide it. These are not my weaknesses. These are my credentials. Because when you've been broken by the system and when you feel the weight of the world literally vibrating in your bones, you learn how to build something better. We talk on this show a lot about shadow prisons, the cages society puts us in. Usually that prison is fear. It is the fear that if you step off the conveyor belt of normal life, if you quit the job, if you leave the house, if you trust a stranger, you will die. But what if the opposite is true? What if the safety you are clinging to is actually your cell block? If you are looking for answers, whether it's about mental health, spiritual warfare, or how to escape the rat race, I've curated thousands of free resources for you. The best way to find them is to use our custom search engine called the Archives. It's built right into my platform. Type in your struggle and let the library serve you. And for those of you who are done consuming and you're ready to start creating, if you want to build a brand that is cancellation proof and a legacy that outlives you, I invite you to work with me. As the omnimedia architect, I help visionaries weaponize and monetize their story to serve the world. You can find all the details and the archives at joshuatberglan.com. But today, well, we're speaking to a man who looked at the American dream and chose the bicycle instead. My guest today is a modern-day nomad who turned survival into an art form. He absolutely turned survival into an art form. It's beautiful. He is a leader, a visionary, and the founder of Cirque Quirk, a circus entertainment company. By the way, you guys have to check this out. I'm breaking off the transcript just to say to you, you have to check this out. It is absolutely amazing. This is like one of the reasons I'm so excited about this interview. But, okay, I'm back on script now. It's a circus entertainment company that brings wonder to the weary. It's absolutely phenomenal. I'm like nerding out and I want to join the circus. But before the business, there was the road. From 2026 to 2011, he lived on a bicycle. He pedaled more than 28,000 miles across 10 countries and 30 states. He didn't do it with a sponsorship or a trust fund. He did it on nearly zero money. He dumpster dived for food. He slept in fields. He relied on the most dangerous thing in the world, the kindness of strangers. He has taken that grit to the screen, competing on reality television shows like A Fight to Survive and performing on The Gong Show. Oh my gosh, how fun. He is the author of The Cycle of Kindness, a visual artist and a father raising two amazing daughters to see the world not as a battlefield, but a playground. Please help me, ladies and gentlemen, and however else you identify, welcome the man who has pedaled toward peace on earth, Mr. Nathaniel Allenby. Nathaniel, how are you today?
Oh, Joshua, the world's mayor himself. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really living. Feel so full and blessed.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. I really am. I got excited. I even broke off my transcript because I started thinking about all the images I've seen of the circus and your performing that you've done. And I was genuinely excited because, one, I never really get to do interviews like this. And I choose my interviews. I hand select all of them. But you're so unique to me in a way that makes my curious, fun brain get really, really excited. And I really identify with the fact that you've pursued the desire of your heart and you did it with no money. You did it the hard way. You did it, it's easy to go on a voyage and you're going to go be a humanitarian when someone's funding your mission.
Sure.
But to go, I don't have any money, but I'm going to do it this way. And do it because this is what I'm being led to do, and this is what I believe is right. This is where my spirit is calling me. The fact that you've done that, I relate to this in so many ways. It inspires me, but the way you've gone about it is so new and refreshing. And it's really, really, you represent the human experience as well as anyone I've ever met and anyone I've ever interviewed. So I'm truly, truly grateful to have you here today.
Wow, what an honor. Thank you.
Well, speaking of gratitude, before we get into your questions, I would love to know, my friend, what are you grateful for today and why?
Today, I am grateful that my wife is pregnant. Our third child is due August this year. It drives me to completely fulfill this vision that I have. It fuels me to work harder towards creating the world that I want to see for my children to grow up in.
That's exciting. That's exciting. What a great answer. Congratulations and blessings to all of your family. All right, you ready to get in your questions?
Yeah.
I'm excited. Nathaniel, in 2026, you dropped out of the fast track life to get on a bicycle. That is a terrifying leap. What was the specific shadow prison you were living in that made homelessness on a bike look like freedom? Was it boredom or was it a deeper spiritual hunger?
It was actually purposelessness. Up until that point in my life, I had been on this trajectory towards going into American politics. And when I dropped out of society, started playing video games full time before there was any future or money in it, I got to this place where I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And that sort of emptiness left a void that anything from there was liberation. But when I went out onto this voyage on my best friend's invitation, it changed everything, because through the freedom and limitlessness, we found that anything was truly possible and that we could go anywhere and do anything with our lives. And it was beautiful.
Oh, that's so inspiring. You lived on less than $800 a year. You learned to dumpster dive. I can relate to this. Most people view that as rock bottom. You on the other hand, viewed it as a strategy. What does eating society's waste teach you about what we value versus what we actually need?
Yeah, that and the entire time I spent living on the bike taught me that we have these radically inefficient systems that are not serving mankind. They are outdated, in need of innovation, and there are really archaic ways of being, mindsets, and frameworks that are in need of radical and immediate shift. And we are seeing these things before our very eyes break down in ways that they have never done so before, because they're being pushed to their extreme limits. And we're seeing so much in terms of governments and politics and world institutions, systems of interaction, and call it a paradigm overall, that are malfunctioning in massive ways on incredibly global levels.
Oh, man, you're speaking my language. We are taught stranger danger from birth. You survived by trusting strangers in 10 different countries. Tell me about a moment when you were vulnerable, maybe freezing in the Pyrenees or lost in a city, where a stranger saved you instead of hurt you.
Yeah, admittedly, it took time to get there. It didn't happen overnight. One of the most basic acts of kindness that I received that helped me believe that I was going to live through the day was on the coldest day I experienced. It's actually the first chapter in my book. I put it out of chronological order because it felt so important. I literally left this guy's house the day after Christmas. He went by Sylvain Quenelle. He went through 40-something countries on foot with only the clothes on his body, no money, no water bottle, nothing. He ate when people gave him food and all of that. And the day that I left his house, it was incredibly cold, well below freezing. I was bicycling along a river that went from Toulouse, France, towards the Mediterranean, and it was actively freezing over. I didn't stop to eat. I didn't stop to go to the bathroom. I did both of those things while I was cycling. And by early afternoon, it had warmed up enough that my hands were no longer going numb, so that I didn't need to put each one in an armpit every 10 minutes to warm it back up again.
Oh my gosh.
And I got to this tiny little center of town where there were a couple little like cafes and restaurants, almost all of which were closed the day after Christmas. And there was this homeless guy hanging out on a bench. And he had already picked through the garbage cans in the area after lunch and had gathered what food there was to collect. And he offered me some, and he offered me a cigarette. And so we sat and had a meal together, broke bread, had a little, smoke. And I asked him about the area, if I was on the right track to where I was trying to get, because I didn't have maps. I didn't have a GPS. I didn't have any real sense of, getting to where I wanted to be other than a compass and a general sense of direction. And there was this real human connection between two people living on the fringes that were still completely willing to give generous acts of kindness without ever having met each other before. I had no idea where I was going to sleep that night. And because it was so deathly cold, I ended up breaking into, not really breaking, but there was a door partially adjacent, ajar, in this like well building. Happened to have a set of stack of mattresses on it, and I slept in there because it was so cold that I didn't know if I was going to make it outdoors. And just this one act of kindness in the middle of an otherwise frigid day warmed my heart in a way that a warm meal couldn't. Gave me the faith in humanity that I had kept receiving over and over again, that was really the inspiration for the book. And it kept me going.
That's cool. Well, speaking of sneaking into castles, it sounds like a fairy tale, but in reality, it's trespassing. Is there a thrill in existing? Is there a thrill in existing in spaces where you're not supposed to be, or is that the essence of your art?
Yeah, so I used to hang out with a lot of anarchist punks. They would jokingly call me the law-abiding citizen. And that wasn't a kind term. And when my best friend and I went and we kept pushing the envelope, we started turning life into a game. Like, we would actually gamify experiences. We would go into a defunct building and create a sort of level of an experience or journey. Like, okay, it's your goal to do this thing in this amount of time. There are these things hidden for you. And when it came to us actually sneaking into castles, it became so much more complex because there were real security guards, real consequences. One of us would stay on the outside to begin with to watch out for the other one. And what were we doing in there? Getting a free tour on our own? I was usually more terrified. My best friend was more brazen, bold, courageous, daredevilish. And I sort of picked up a lot of that from him over time. And to begin with, no, there was a lot of paranoia. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of anxiety. And as we continued to have these experiences, and I realized, like, we're not harming anyone. We're safe. We're fine. We're practically modern day ninjas. And we had these depths of experiences that armed us with a set of skills that most people just don't have today to navigate awkward, unusual, uncomfortable situations where the growth truly happens. And so these things were like real life video games where every time we did something, we got stronger. We gained new strengths, skills, attributes, characteristics that then further propelled us through life to get through this incredible journey in ways that we were yet unprepared for. And so it was really a developing of skill set that caused us to do all this stuff and that we gained from.
What an awesome perspective that is. But your journey wasn't all sunshine.
Oh no.
You were robbed in London.
Yeah.
You faced freezing cold, as we've already discussed. When the romance of the road wore off and you were quivering in a tent, what kept you pedaling? Why didn't you just call home and quit?
Oh, there were some rough days, I will admit, Joshua. But really early on, this thing happened to us on day one. We asked for directions from the Schiphol airport outside of Amsterdam into the city. And they're like, oh, that's an 11 kilometers away. You can't walk that. And we like, wait a minute. You believe we can't, but 11 kilometers is totally possible. That's within human limits. And so anytime somebody told us we can't, it was a challenge, like we had to. And my dad was offering me a free flight home anytime. He's like, hey, whenever you want to come back, I got you. But we were broke. I didn't have the money to fly back. And we had this real goal. And one of the crazy ones was to sneak into the pyramids. We never ended up doing that, but that was one of the goals. And so because we hadn't accomplished many of the things, that alone drove us on. But we learned resiliency through the uncomfortable, because that's where growth happens. Growth doesn't happen when we're in our comfort zone. Oh. When this small band of 15-year-old hoodlums robbed us in London, which it didn't take me that long to figure out. Surprisingly, I caught on right away that some of our stuff was missing. And we chased after them. At which point, one of them threatened to pull a knife out of their pants. I didn't know if they had it or not, but I defended myself like they did. And fortunately, my best friend at the time was gone, retrieving his bicycle from the police because he locked it on accident, lost the key, needed to come back to us, get the spare key, go back to the police, so he was not there. Otherwise, we probably would have been in a brawl. But the very next day, we met this guy who had just gotten out of prison. And mind you, we were in probably the most leery, untrusting place we had been this entire trip. And this guy is telling us the story of how he stabbed a guy 33 times in self-defense. Sure. He was incredibly kind. He was incredibly generous. He was gregarious and connective. He bought us food and gave us alcohol and hung out with us at a park until well past midnight. And nothing bad happened there. And so we can have these preconceived notions about what is safe and what is not safe. And those get shattered as you travel. And you realize the more open-hearted, vulnerable, and willing to put ourselves out in a way where we could be taken advantage of, but we're entrusting strangers to not do that, that's like a hack for the world. It cracks people open in this way where the best parts of them almost always come out. Now, yeah, we had tough days. We had some really challenging things happen, and that adversity also helped us gain new skills. But it was through those darkest moments that the trust for others was tested. And when we could pass through it, just like those 2 days, that was when things opened for us on a whole new level.
As you're speaking, it just reminds me, it's in a different way, but a lot of the people that different groups, I'm going to be careful how I word this because I'm not trying to make anyone mad today. I've already done that enough this morning. A lot of the groups that we are told that we're supposed to discriminate against or hate or they're bad or whatever we're told through some of our indoctrination that we face in America, those are the very people that were there for me at my lowest times and my greatest times of need. And whether it's a religious group or a gender group or a group that, you know, is part of the LGBT community, whatever. Like I've had the people that I've been told and raised that were bad or they were going to hell. Those are the people that showed me the love of God more than people that shared my belief system. And I've been fortunate that I've always been naturally drawn to people that were different than me, to always have a different perspective. But it was very confusing growing up that the people that I was supposed to look at as heroes were the ones that were causing me most of the pain in my life and the trauma. And the people that I were supposed to villainize, they were the people that were there for me. It was kind of a mind F. Now I understand the reason for that. But I really love what you shared there because there's also something to say about how we show up and the energy that we bring to the table. You know, if we're walking around in fear, we're going to attract predators. That's a fact. That is a fact. There's a reason. And as somebody who's been abused in all the ways, I say this is from that standpoint. If we're walking around like a victim, guess what happens? We become a victim again. Yeah. But there's something about bringing a powerful, confident, loving energy to the world. You tend to attract those people. And that's the only reason why I think that those people showed up in a time of need for me, because I wasn't being judged. I was just looked at as a human being and being loved for who I was and being loved for where I was at. And that's why those people showed up for me. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the perspectives I've had, but this perspective that you've offered is really refreshing because there's a lot of fear right now. I blame our media. I blame the lack of media literacy, meaning that we just believe there's multiple definitions for media literacy in this respect. I mean, we just assume that what we see in the headlines is true. We assume that, you know, an image of somebody burning a flag is real, but in all actuality, it was AI. But now that photo is being passed around all through social media as if it's a real thing. Therefore, it's stirring up more hate and causing more division because of the way people lash out on social media. And what I'm getting from you is not only do you seek to have an open mind and an open heart to understanding, an open heart just to be a human, to experience all that being a human is, but and by taking that approach, you're able to see and appreciate the beauty of diversity, the beauty of challenges, the beauty of things that may not necessarily align with everything that you are. But you're able to appreciate it in a way that's very refreshing, that's giving you new perspectives, a new way to look at life, and also a really deeper appreciation for what it is to be human. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, if I can give any advice to your listeners, it's that you need to seek information outside of how you look at things. because we are constantly being fed things via the internet that are in alignment with our own personal algorithms. That if we are not intentionally going out and seeking things from new perspectives, then we are going to be force-fed things that ingrain us into the way we already think, in a way that will cause further division, further isolation, polarization within our society, and more fear than ever. Now, fear is a tactic. It's not just an emotion. Now, there's a great book called The Prince by Machiavelli. It's a classic, but a good one, more relevant than ever. It talks about the role of fear from governing bodies in use to control and manipulate their people. It is a very real tactic. It has been well known for a very long time. Divide and conquer just so happens to work.
Yep.
Talk to people who have a different perspective than you and be willing to hear them. When we are asking for ideas to come to the table, when we are in a creative brainstorming place, that is the time to not judge ideas. When we're in a judgmental and a creative place simultaneously, it literally physiologically shuts down a part of our brain that makes it so we lack creativity. And so there are so many different things to be more connective with other people instead of judgmental, vilifying, and then putting them in a box or category that says they're not like me. I will not listen to them. And when we can begin to cease these behaviors, that's when we open back up. That's when we're a connective society. That's where health and wellness comes from.
Oh, that's the best sermon I've ever heard without preaching. We're gonna
Totally spontaneous.
Oh, it was so good. I'm going to isolate that clip. That one's perfect. Oh my gosh. All right. We have so many other questions I want to get
Seriously.
to. I would spend like 3 hours on that section alone with you. But
Have me back anytime,
you have-
Joshua, but let's get to
you
the most
you can get back
important.
anytime. You founded, now am I saying it correctly, Cirque Quirk?
It's actually Cirque, like Cirque du Soleil, and Quirk, like we're all a little quirky. Let's celebrate
Definitely
that.
quirky. Okay, so Cirque Quirk. Okay.
Yep.
You founded Cirque Quirk. I apologize for saying your name correctly.
No
the name.
worries.
You hire high quality artists to do what they love.
Yeah.
Many creatives starve. How did you bridge the gap between living in a tent and running a profitable company? What was the hardest business decision for a nomad to learn?
Oh man, the simplest principle is fail forward.
I like that.
Learn from our mistakes and get better from them. The hardest thing to do is to let go of control. Bring other people in to support me so that the company can grow. I essentially ran it alone for 11 years, and then I hit a ceiling. I'm only doing so much business if I'm doing it all alone. They say, if you want to go fast, go solo. If you want to go far, go with a team. And so I'm in this major transitory period with running the company where the things that I've been doing for the last 11 years, now 14 years, are outdated. I get to grow or I get to fail.
Mhm.
It's one or the other. And it's not failing in terms of doing something poorly. It's failing my community by not serving them to the best of my ability. Because if my company stays stagnant, then people who are artists and driven creatives aren't getting enough work to be able to match inflation and this world that's growing in very unusual and unique ways. And so in order to best provide a living for the creatives around me, I get to innovate as a business owner. And if we choose to do things the same, then we don't respect the principle that the only consistency in life is change. And so change as fast as you can and be willing to experience the growth pain within.
The world's going to change, is changing, whether people want it to or not. And I contend that the only people who are going to suffer are the ones that are resistant to the change, because it's happening. And we are becoming, like, I think diversity is a strength. And look, I don't support any well-funded agendas by any means. But I also absolutely support progress and evolution of our ways of thinking and breaking out of, I don't think a lot of the traditions that are forced on us in our upbringing are necessarily right or rooted in truth. It's rooted in control. And I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to this. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the changes that technology is bringing. And yes, I do recognize the potential downfalls, but I also recognize the potential for opportunity, especially for creatives, especially for marginalized communities, especially for the voiceless, especially for those that are part of underserved communities around the world. Technology gets to play a great equalizer. And I see a lot of, resistance and pushback, and people are trying to hang on to the old way of doing things. And it's upsetting because I understand that change is hard. I do. It's difficult. It's difficult to grow. It's even more difficult when you choose to grow, when you surrender to, you surrender your will for maybe what the creator's will, what you were created for, choosing the hero's journey, however you want to describe it. Like but I guess what I'm trying to get at is when it's seeing the resistance to the change, knowing that there's going to be people that can benefit to these changes. What can you say to the people that are resistant to change, to breaking out of the norm? What can you talk about, or what can you say towards staying in the comfort zone? I know you addressed it a little bit.
Yeah.
But in the world that's changing with technology, with inclusion, with trying to make a seat at the table for the people that have not been given a seat at the table, what do you have to say to that?
So I'll reference Jim Carrey in his commencement address to Maharishi University, one of my favorite speeches of all time. He talks about his father not following his dreams, living a job for 11 years that he didn't love at all, that he gets fired from, that causes him and his family to live out of their vehicle. And he tells this graduating class to do the thing that you love, even if it's the scariest thing in your life, because you can fail at doing what you don't love. So you might as well take a chance doing what you love. And I feel very blessed to have been able to live that. Now, I didn't start a career, call circus a career, until 28. I was vagabond, footloose, free living. Mm-hmm. But that set me up for the willingness to grow in ways that I can apply to everything else in the world. And if we're unwilling to grow, then we're going to be witnessing the same patterns in our lives. There's this belief that we attract the relationships into our lives to learn the specific lessons that we need to grow. I truly believe that there isn't some judgmental God out there that's waiting to weigh our sins and our virtues at the end of our existence. What I believe is that Earth is like a classroom.
Earth school.
That we are here to learn, and that if we do not, then we will eventually, even if it's in the most painful of ways, or, theoretically in other lifetimes. But it's in the uncomfortability that growth happens. Now, there are some absolutely great institutions out there, next level trainings, masters in transformation, leaders in transformation trainings, things like this that are specifically designed to curate personal growth and transformation. I got to experience this about 2 years ago. I continue to go through trainings. I'm in one this next weekend. And these kinds of things are such great tools to help people be able to learn the skills and connections with others, the resources to be able to navigate this rapidly transforming world in ways that we are not necessarily prepared for. So learn more emotional intelligence, learn more leadership training, get to the point where when something you didn't want to have happen happens, because it inevitably will, we're not in a place of reaction, but we're in a place of conscious response and say, okay, great. I accept that this is reality. What can I do? What is within my control? What is outside my control? And how can I know the difference between the two?
That's serenity prayer.
That's the serenity prayer.
It is the serenity prayer. And it's true.
It's true.
It's one of the best prayers ever, whether you're sober or not. It's incredible. You bring joy to impoverished and disaster-stricken areas. I believe laughter is one of the greatest frequencies to heal. When you perform for a child who has lost everything, do you see a physical change in their demeanor? And does the circus break their shadow prison of trauma, even for an hour?
Yeah, thanks for asking this question because it is such a big one. I feel really blessed to have gone to Zimbabwe with Clowns Without Borders. We went to some very impoverished areas, and there were kids who had never seen a white person before.
Oh, wow.
Not just never seen a juggler or a puppet, but they never saw a white person, and they would freak out when they saw me. But when we did our performances and brought them joy and laughter, it cracked them open on so many levels. I saw kids that went from to this sort of, physiological change. We got feedback and responses after every show. And people would say things like, I was so consumed by my fear that I forgot what it was like to have joy and laughter in my life.
Oh.
And getting these kinds of feedback repeatedly caused me to feel a sense of humility, as well as a strengthening of desire to do the kind of thing that you're doing, to be more of a humanitarian, to take the gifts, the blessings, the situation of my life and take what advantages I have and turn them into benefits for others.
So cool.
And when we can turn our life into acts of service, I think that is when we are fulfilling our highest good.
Amen. Now, your book, by the way, it's an amazing book. Your book is compared to Into the Wild, but Chris McCandless died alone. You survived. What is the key difference? Is it that he sought isolation and you sought connection?
Yeah, he did seek isolation. He was so disenfranchised with our culture that in a way he sought to escape it. And while I certainly had my fair amount of escapism practices, what I learned was that escapism doesn't help us grow, and it doesn't allow us empowerment to be able to have any influence on our situation. Sure, I could take my family out into the wilderness and live in the style of, Chris McCandless or, other, movie depictions of people like this. but instead I choose to remain a part of our culture so that I can have an impact on it. The vision of my life is to truly have the most profoundly positive impact on the planet that I can. And the cycle of kindness is just the beginning. My aim is to get an app out there like TikTok, but instead of look at me, ego driven, watch me, I want to be your influencer. It's like, hey, how can we drive, motivate, and incentivize random acts of kindness and selfless acts of generosity, and then turn the camera outward? When I do this thing, what is the impact it has over there? How do I impact this homeless person or this person in need or this disaster-stricken region? What is the impact of my actions? And when we show other people cracking out of that shell, gaining joy, gaining laughter, gaining benefit, I believe that that will be infinitely more powerful than this look at me mentality of the paradigm that we are currently shifting through, because we don't stay anywhere. And I think that where we're at is just a phase for connecting to our humanity so that we can show the world what true kindness does. And that's my goal, is to show the world what true kindness does, to connect humanity as a whole, to bring us closer together instead of divide. The opposite of divide is unify. And that's a major part of my life mission.
I relate and love that so much. This is a spin on citizen journalism, and those that are citizen journalism advocates that listen and watch these broadcasts know how much I talk about sharing less opinions on social media, instead sharing stories, storytelling, and then tapping into citizen journalism to show what's really happening as opposed to what we're getting from third parties or major news sources. Like, the way to break the algorithm is with the truth of our stories versus our opinions that we can't really prove are true. But this, what you're talking about, is truly putting a spotlight on the things that should have a spotlight on it. And that is acts of service, good deeds, all the things that they don't want to show in the news because it doesn't move the meter when it comes to their ratings and advertising. But the thing is that the truth of our stories has a much more, even if it's not as popular or buzzworthy from an advertising standpoint, the fact is the ability for it to spread because positivity and joy and all of that good energy has a more positive effect on people. And so the ripple effect has so much more potential for good if we stick with it, as opposed to showing one good positive story of maybe it's just cute puppies, I don't know, but it's better than seeing death and doom and gloom and fear, you know. And I we can create a radical shift with your idea. I absolutely love it and support it. And I think it's something that the more you talk about is going to gain more momentum, and you're going to find more support, because it absolutely ties into the trend of citizen journalism that is going to start really getting legs. Right now, it's not a buzzword unless if you're in the right community. But I'm telling you, you have something, and it definitely taps in and ties into citizen journalism in a way that I'm very, very excited about. So good on you for doing that.
Thanks. Life missions, dream bigger.
Yeah, well, this is a very feasible dream. So yeah, keep going.
I know there's more, but I really want to touch on, there's a fantastic book called Power versus Force.
Good book.
By David Hawkins. It talks about some of the things you've mentioned, like resonance frequency or energy within the body. And we are at this turning point in humanity where we're on this first half of a bell curve, and we're just getting to the point where people are more positive than negative. We're more proactive than reactive. And I truly believe that we are here on this earth right now for a reason. And the reason for our lives is to facilitate this change moving forward to the best of our ability. And everybody has the power. Everybody is capable. And so please, all of you listeners, join in on this. Do any kind of good turn daily that you can. Make the world a better place than you found it. Be the source of light. Be the change you want to see in the world. And let's do this together.
Amen. Now, you say the book includes sex, drug experimentation, and adversity. I can relate to this. Many leaders scrub their past to look professional. I didn't. Why was it critical for you? This is another reason I relate to you. Why was it critical for you to leave the messy parts in? Does perfectionism kill connection?
I don't actually think perfectionism kills connection, but I believe it's the facade, the allure, the mask that perfectionism causes us to put on, where we only want other people to see the shiny, glowing, lovely parts of us that we project. Authenticity is so much more powerful because it gives other permission to be their authentic selves as well. When we live our truth, it allows others to live theirs. When we're completely ourselves, that vulnerability gives permission for others to be vulnerable. If somebody and I are going to be out of alignment because of something that I hid from them to begin with, it's going to come out eventually. I would so much rather get through that early on and find real compatibility by expressing my authenticity from the beginning. I would rather be radically honest, but also express myself with loving kindness, be totally forthcoming and transparent, because there was a time in my life that I was lying to my own father, and it was negatively detracting from our relationship. I ended up getting matching tattoos with my best friend. When I had the opportunity the first time ever, he wasn't there. So the options that I had were tattoos he already had on his body. And I got Veritas across my chest, which stands for truth, honesty, integrity, being true to yourself and others. And Equitas across my back, which is equality, justice, balance, equilibrium, harmony. And I couldn't look myself in the mirror after I had lied. And this created this transformation within me. And it's one of the things that I try to get out into the world because it is so liberating and freeing. We spend so much of our energy concerned about what other people think of us. There's another great book, The Courage to be Disliked. And when we get there, it liberates, frees so much of our internal energy that we're not so drained and depleted caring about what others think of us. And this energy frees us to do so much more with our lives and in the world. So perfectionism isn't that thing that stifles. It is our unwillingness to be our authentic selves.
So good. So good. Now, you've lived in San Diego for 14 years now. Love San Diego. I used to live in Little Italy. I love it there. You have a wife, you have 2 daughters, and another child on the way. After 28,000 miles of total freedom, does staying in one place ever feel like a cage? How do you keep the wild alive in a domestic life?
I do continue to plan some pretty outrageous adventures for myself. I feel very blessed that my wife is willing to support me. I've had some really difficult physical challenges myself this year. Developed issues with my feet that have been preventing me from hiking lately. But I dream to travel the Annapurna circuit in Nepal and do a pilgrimage around Mount Kailash in Western Tibet and see the Dolomites in Italy. And I have gotten to go to Fiji and, see Machu Picchu and go to Zimbabwe. And I don't ever allow the groundedness that I now have which also helps set a foundation for stability, which is massively important on, Maslow's hierarchy of needs and these other kinds of principled systems that in order to have greater spiritual growth, we need to have our most basic fundamental needs met. And so I don't ever want to now put myself in a situation where I could perish, because I want to be here for my kids as long as I can.
Yeah.
And I don't let it stop me living. I do my best to save well so that I can fulfill these dreams and aspirations of a life worth living. I don't ever want to stop doing things that inspire me, because then my joy will be diminished and it will be harder for me to help others elevate their joy. And so keeping my own personal resonance vibration really high is done through connecting with nature, experiencing the greatness of the world, valuing other cultures, and interacting with people in a way that helps them believe in the goodness of humanity and the kindness of strangers. Keeping the cycle of kindness going, giving more than I receive. All of this keeps me fueled, alive. I'm in school right now, pursuing a psychology degree so that I can also become a licensed marriage and family therapist and a trauma-informed motivational speaker, so that I can keep having the most profoundly impact on the world, not just through quality of individual connection, but through reaching the greatest audience that I can, which is another reason, Joshua, that I'm in such alignment with what you're doing, because you're trying to have this great catharsis of impact on the most number of people you can. And so kudos to you for doing it. Don't ever stop, man.
It's the only thing that keeps me alive. I can't stop.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's a very spiritual thing because of the life that I was living. That's in my book, The Devil Inside Me. I don't have secrets, and if I do have a secret, I haven't done anything now that I'm not willing to go on camera and go, well, yeah, I did that, and to have an honest discussion about it, because I'm not fearful of the truth. I'm also not fearful of. I mean, look, I got called a batshit crazy person earlier today. Huh. I mean, I'm misunderstood a lot, and I have to accept that, and it's part of it. It's part of the journey, but at the same time, I know that I'm not for everyone, but I am here for a purpose, and over the years, it's taken a lot of fine tuning and being, when I try to give up or get off the path, I get kicked back. Knocked back on the path and going, you surrendered to this. We're going to finish this. And
ooh, I feel that.
When I hear people talk about that have made their dreams come true, I hear them talk about on stage. There's no way to really quantify how hard it is. There's no way. I don't have a vocabulary. And even if I had the vocabulary to be able to explain how hard the journey is, and this is the way for any of us, by the way. This is not exclusive to me. Trying to help others understand it is really, really challenging. And that said, even if I was to tell you all the things, it still wouldn't register, because we all have our own unique perspectives and our own journey is going to be different. Here's what I will tell anyone. It's hard, but when you get to that place of that is the only reason you're alive, it becomes easier, and it doesn't have to be that difficult. But for me, I'm hard-headed. But I will tell you this: it's more my life as a chemsex addict for 20 years, a life of confusion, identity issues, never knowing what's real, losing time, having broken relationships, broken families, being the cause of it. I mean, a pretty awful life before, never knowing what I actually did. 4 days later, like, what did I do? Oh God. That life was challenging, yes. But choosing a life of purpose is 5 times harder. It's 5 times more difficult. And I don't want to say this to discourage anyone, because what I want to say is this: it's also the path to learning the joy in suffering, because life is going to make you suffer. There's awful traumatic events that happen to all of us, whether you've surrendered or not. But I will tell you, from a place of surrender, we are really strong, and we get to see miracles work in our life. We get to find joy in places that we should not find joy in.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we have a reason to get our ass off the mat when we get knocked down. We have a reason when we're sick to go, you know what? I'm not going to stay in bed. I'm going to get up and do it because this is what I'm called to do. I'm going to be in service. Even though I may not have everything I think I need, I know that I can be in service. So I'm going to do that because that's what my spirit has called me to do. And doing that has brought me more joy, and I've seen more miracles than I've ever, me being alive is kind of a miracle, but the miracles and the blessings I get to experience, and also getting to experience love in a way that doesn't have borders or boxes, it's really helped me tap into what this life is really about. And I don't have it all figured out by any means, but I'll never quit, simply because no matter how hard it gets, no matter what giant or obstacle comes in my path, I know at this point in my career, in my journey, that I was created to overcome every single one of those giants in my path. Why? Well, I think it's because part of our assignment and part of our purpose is when we overcome those giants or slay those dragons of addiction or abuse or trauma, whatever, mental health issues. When we've done that, it becomes part of our purpose and our duty to teach others how we did it, because we are not the only ones who suffer. We are not the only ones who go through traumatic events. And when we have that sense of duty, it gives us a sense of purpose, and that alone makes life worth living.
Such an empowering perspective, Joshua. I mean, the key tenet of Buddhism is life is suffering.
Is it? Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. But okay. Yeah, I it is all for it. I do think, I think all religions point to this, and I think maybe I've listened to Alan Watts too much.
I love it.
I've studied a lot of different religions, and again, my personal beliefs, they don't really matter because they're my personal, and I also understand why people believe what they believe. And I just try to hold space and be supportive of all that. Again, I have my own beliefs and my own faith, but it's mine, and it doesn't make anyone else's wrong. I'm not one of those people. But I do enjoy other perspectives and other belief systems, because what I really recognize is that even if I don't agree with it, it strengthens my own personal faith, or it makes me go, wow, we really are a lot more alike than I would have thought, and I appreciate both.
Great things to learn.
Want to ask, so you've talked a little bit, you haven't used these exact words, but essentially peace on earth is something that you dream of. And I relate to this. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't care if somebody believes differently than me. Like, I see you as a creation of our Creator. And therefore, from what I follow, I am commanded and encouraged to not just love our Creator, but to love what the Creator has created. And part of loving is to care for, to be patient, to be kind, and so forth. So as much as peace on earth sounds cliche, you've lived it. How are you teaching your children to trust strangers in a world that is increasingly paranoid?
Yeah, I do teach them to believe in the goodness of humanity while also trusting their intuition. They don't need to be comfortable with someone they don't know beyond when it naturally takes place. And I model the behavior of trusting anybody that I come across and being kind to them. We also do a lot of forgiveness practice in our home. And I tell them, like, hey, if this person hurt you or caused you to feel something that you didn't want to feel, what can we do to forgive them? What can we do to ask to have our needs met? And then not allow a specific, call it negative or uncomfortable experience, to dictate or determine how we show up for every human connection after that. Because that's essentially what trauma does to us. It dictates how we show up for everything after that moment, because we're so afraid of that one thing happening again. And so we close down, we shell up, we put up our walls and defenses. And it's when we can remain open that those things don't dictate our way of being. On Christmas Eve, I brought my daughters to a homeless encampment. We picked up about 650 pounds of food and delivered it. And before we got there, I gave them a set of expectations like, hey, these people won't necessarily look or sound like us. They may not have access to a toothbrush or a shower, and that doesn't make them less than or unequal. We can still be of benefit to them. And if you don't feel safe getting out of the car, then just watch from there. You still get to be a part of this experience.
So cool.
And we unloaded the food, and now it's one of the things that my daughter references regularly and brings up to other people. She's like telling the story, and this becomes a part of her identity.
Yes.
And so modeling matters so much, and not just interrelationship modeling, how my wife treat each other, but how we treat ourselves, how we show up for ourselves. Because that's the blueprint for how our kids treat themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're self-deprecating, shaming, guilting, insecure, uncertain, doubtful, not living our truth or following our dreams, then our kids are going to think that's the way to go about life.
You should write a parenting book too.
Maybe someday.
One of my favorite things of how I was raised, I mean, I don't like my childhood very much, but one of the things that I can look back at my childhood that I'm so grateful for is that both of my parents, and as savage as my father was, when it came to helping people in need, there was no question. Like, it didn't matter. Like, they could have looked strung out on drugs. It didn't matter. If they felt called, they served. And getting to see that growing up in an upper middle class home and, having privileges that a lot of people don't have, getting to see that and being taught to treat people the same, like there's no, I'm better than you, because how many people are one bad decision away from being homeless? How many people you get fired, someone's a CEO making a couple million a year, and next thing they're on the street. It happens, Yeah. So anyway, I love hearing your perspectives about even parenting and how, you're teaching your kids. It's such a fresh, beautiful perspective. So I hope you write a parenting book one day. You've mentioned an interest in psychology and emotional intelligence. Do you believe that world peace is a political problem, or is it a psychological problem? Do we need better treaties, or do we need better emotional regulation?
So it is a problem in both. There are things that are on a systemic level, but all of those stem from our individual level. Be the change you want to see in the world is great in philosophy, but it needs to start with ourselves.
True.
If we're pointing to other people and saying like, no, you need to do this, then we're not being the source. We're not taking personal responsibility for what we want to see in the world.
Mm-hmm.
On Christmas Eve, I didn't have to go to that homeless encampment. I didn't need to spend the money, but I have the privilege to be able to. And so many of us, especially in developed westernized cultures, we have these privileges too. And we could choose to call it participate in the mindless self-indulgence of self-gratification and only thinking about ourselves. And I believe it's a part of our responsibility for being on this world to, at least in part, after we've done everything to take care of ourselves and satisfy our fundamental needs, prepare and plan for our future, sure. But then, or even throughout that, give to others. Because I truly believe and have experienced for decades that a life of service is more fulfilling than a life totally in service to myself. The gift is in the giving. The benefit, the joy is in the uplifting of others. This I've gotten to experience for the last 14 years, doing motivational circus shows, having everyday interactions. I mean, I must have interacted with millions of people at this point in my life. And when I give to the best of my ability, that is what creates the most benefit for others, which is uplifting, enriching, energizing. And sure, sometimes it can be depleting on me, and I have learned the tools to replenish myself. And I teach my daughters those tools too. And so it's a deep matter of creating a vision of what kind of world we want to see, and then creating that world in our lives first, and then generating that around us.
There's someone listening right now who hates their job, hates their commute, and feels absolutely dead inside. They have a mortgage and kids, and they just can't jump on a bike. What is one micro adventure they can take today to break the bars of their own mental prison?
So this goes back to the first question that you asked. Instead of purposelessness, find purposefulness. Whatever that means for you, find the purpose that motivates, drives, inspires. Instead of the thing that brings you down towards apathy, find that thing that brings you up to energizing. Whether your purpose is to create an art project or to start your own business, take committed action. Whether that's 30 minutes, less sleep, 90 minutes, less TV time, carve out the time in your life to pursue that dream and follow that passion. Write the business plan and then spend time every single day moving towards it. Consistency is key. It is in the action that we move towards our goal. Because remember, principles of physics, an object in motion stays in motion. An object at rest stays at rest. When we are stifling our creativity and the pursuit of our dreams, we are more likely to stay there just because the energy isn't moving within inside of us. When we start taking action and move towards the thing that we want to create, we build up momentum. And that momentum creates the reality that we want to achieve in our vision.
So good. What you just said reminds me of one of the pastors I like to listen to. He said, do something every day to stretch your faith and you will see miracles in your life.
Yeah.
When I first heard that, it reminded me of, like, I know how many steps back I could take, steps forward and take steps back. And especially in a day of, battling mental health issues, whatever, and like how life happens. But I became very obsessed. And this was about 8 years ago, maybe, I'm guessing, when I first heard this. But it became this obsessive thought, like the blessing is in the breaking, life happens for me. There was like certain words that just, or phrases that really stick with me. But doing something every day to stretch my faith. In other words, taking a leap of faith every day that I'm led to take. And I ask for those leaps of faith, by the way. And when I get them, I've seen miracles pretty much every day in my journey because of that, because I'm for the most part, I mean, there's days that I have to stay in bed all day, but even then I'm still trying to take a step forward, to do something that's stretching my faith just a little bit. Maybe it's sharing something that's vulnerable. Maybe it's sharing a download that I got that maybe most people won't resonate with, or maybe vocalizing support of a marginalized group that is going to piss people off and make people question my who I am. Mm-hmm. I whatever it is. But I've learned that being obedient to that call is just as important as surrendering my life for the purpose I was created for. To choose the creator's plan for my life over my own selfish plan. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just as important. And I am addicted to seeing those miracles, because with each one, my faith gets stronger. And maybe if I don't see that miracle that day, the fact is I've seen enough of it because I've stretched my faith enough to go, I'm going to get the miracle. And if there's a delay, it's going to be even a greater miracle. So I'm addicted to stepping into faith. And this is not really a planned question, but how do you, because you're on a faith journey too, like everything you're doing and the way you're going about it, and even to answer the call to service that you have, which I freaking relate to so much and I love. But for you, how do you keep yourself motivated to keep facing the challenges that a life in service bring? I know you're a businessman too, but you serve above everything else. How do you keep yourself motivated to keep doing that?
We have talked a lot about the power of perspective, and what you spoke to before was, so potent and is so real in me, because I've also heard this phrase that life happens for you, not life happens to you. And like everybody, I have my days. I need to rest and recover. And honestly, I'm working 6 and 7 days a week right now, up to 12-hour days, because there's this fire inside of me, because I began the consistent action a long time ago. The boulder is rolling and just getting bigger. And it makes it easier to have the energy to follow the dreams and the knowledge that there will be setbacks. Things will not go my way, that there will be obstacles to overcome, that it will take every ounce of resilience and perseverance in me to do it. Knowing that beforehand helps set me up for success, because I have a realistic state of expectations. If I believe everything is going to be easy and that I will win the lottery tomorrow, as the extreme case example, then I'm going to be sorely disappointed. And that it's by having the vision that the purposefulness stays present. Because I can think in everything in my life against this idea of, is this thing moving me towards having a positive impact on my fellow man? If it's not, then is that the thing I need to be spending my time and effort on? If it is, then great, I'm on my path. I am right where I need to be on my journey. And it doesn't matter if I feel like I'm succeeding, because feelings are there to serve us, and they're also fleeting. They don't necessarily give us the solution that we need to have in a moment. And there's also a concept in psychology I wanted to mention, where it's a sort of observer bias. I don't know if you've ever heard this idea where if you just heard about a new car that you'd never heard about it before, and you're looking for it out there in the world, all of a sudden you will see it way more than you used to. It's not that this car exists in greater quantities out in the world than it did the day before you learned about it. And we can apply that to everything. When you start looking for those miracles, that's when you see them. When you start looking for the proof towards your beliefs, you will find it. If we're afraid and fearful and believe that this world is this negative, divisive place, we're going to see that as well. And so when we're looking for something, we find it. And so seek out the thing that brings you more joy. Seek out the thing in the world that will make this earth a brighter place, that will inspire and incentivize you to follow that vision and that dream. Because when you know what you're looking for, you will see it.
Unbelievable. As the world's mayor, I'm going to give you the power to enact one global law to foster human evolution and culture. Nathaniel, what would that law be?
This is your easiest question yet, Joshua. Outlaw war. It is the interconflict within our human species that is stifling progress greater than anything else.
Amen.
If we start looking at our fellow man as one species and start working together like we're on the same team, we will accomplish all of the objectives that every single person has put forth for humanity and have so many resources left over to clothe, house, feed, educate every single person on this planet and become an interstellar species and more.
Oh, I've got chills all over me. So many amens. That is exactly the law that I would change. I would absolutely change it. If we're gonna fight, let's fight with our fist, but not. We don't need destroying the planet, destroying homes, shelter, water supplies, food, poisoning, killing off generations of people, killing off entire bloodlines. We don't need that crap. Like, that is not war. That's savage demon crap. And that's happening in this world, and it must stop. I personally believe with all my heart, and this is one little area, taking it back to my own personal mission of, if my sole desire is to get people to live in the purpose they were actually created for. Because I believe if we are living purposefully and we are living like the Lamborghini, the manufacturer of the Lamborghini, that Lamborghini is designed to do a Lamborghini thing. It's not designed to go off-roading. It's designed to be a high-performance sports car. But it also needs special care. It needs to be treated the right way. The creator of our lives created us to be a certain thing, and yet most of us are not that. We have not surrendered to that. And because of that, we have jealousy, we have homophobia, we have discrimination, we have hate, we have racism, we have division. We have, instead of celebrating uniqueness, we demonize it. And we make it so hard for people to be authentically themselves that when we do take that first attempt, it's not really coming out authentically. Maybe it's coming out with a scream or a roar because you're tired of being suppressed. You're tired of having your voice taken from you. And so it comes out ugly. And when you're tired of being ignored and you're tired of not being seen and you're tired of not being heard, it's going to come out ugly. But eventually it's going to come out. We were designed to be a certain way. And what I see, and again, social media is not the real gauge for this, but we have not created or fostered an environment where we've made it safe for people to be, we've not made it safe for people to be honest. And like, even with me, who wrote a book and shared every dirty, awful, evil secret I had, it's not been easy for me. And that book was written years ago. It's still not easy, even though for me personally, I'm like, I got no secrets. I can walk through life freely. But every once in a while, I'll get a message in my DMs, or I'll get an email of somebody saying some really awful, nasty things to me that make me have to step back and go, was this the right decision, to be honest? And I want to be done with that. I know that's not the same thing as war, But when we have wars are fought over secrets, there's people right now protecting a bunch of, there's people in positions of power that are protecting some of the most vile, awful human beings on the planet because they're worried about their own secrets being exposed. Yeah. Wars are fought. Civil wars happen in communities because of dishonesty. So I love your answer so much. I could go off on a 5-hour sermon about this and I'm going to stop, but I celebrate your answer. I celebrate you. And one other thing I want to get to, I want you to paint this picture for us. It is 20 years from now. All 3 of your children are grown and they're healthy, they're happy. The cycle of kindness is spread all over the world, translated in multiple languages. What does the world look like? How do people treat each other in the grocery store? How do people treat each other online?
The beautiful picture that I believe in and am spending my life dedicated to creating is kindness, loving kindness, treating others the way they want to be treated. The platinum rule. It's little acts like picking something up that somebody else dropped, greeting people with a smile, having whatever impact that we can that enriches other people's lives, that doesn't take much effort or energy out of us. And then on the other extreme, this world has people that are totally committed to enriching the world. There are creatives and builders, nurturers and growers, allies of this earthship of humanity. Call them enlightened beings or kindred spirits. They're call it spiritual leaders. The ones who are really living, like you talked about, the way our Creator intended us to. They're the ones truly loving everything that our Creator has created. And it's a world where people can choose to be afraid, but aren't forced to be afraid. We get to experience all of our emotions on a healthy level, instead of our feeling overwhelmed by them or suppress them. It's a world of greater emotional maturity, personal responsibility, ethos, and ethics of a higher standard, cultivating a greater standard of living for all, so that truly no person is left behind, and so that we are advancing as one human species, not one homogenized culture. Like you said, we are celebrating our differences. We are more connected than ever. And there's some really incredible ways to go about this. Recently, Ireland passed a law that gave a sort of universal basic income to creatives and artists. They noticed a larger increase in their GDP than the amount of money it spent on giving those artists basic fundamentals for life.
Yep.
It is when we choose to facilitate, nurture, and encourage the creatives of this planet that all of mankind will benefit. It is when we support and create alliances with those that are doing the greatest humanitarian benefit that the world will be enriched the most, the fastest, and the greatest. And so I want to encourage everyone to ally yourself with those people that inspire you. If you don't want to create your own cause, join theirs. Be a part of something magnificent, beneficial. Be a part of something that you feel proud of to leave as your legacy. Make the greatest impact that you are able, even if it is a small one. that your best will vary from day to day, and that we get to celebrate our high days as well as our low days, but that every day we can do something. And that something starts with you. Doing something for you in order to lift yourself up, help the world, because we can't fill someone else's cup when ours is empty. And this is the world that I want to live in. This is the world that I dream of creating for my kids. It's what I will spend the rest of my life doing.
You just made the strongest argument I've ever heard from a guest for Artifexian governance, which is a term most people don't know, but they will soon know. I'm
Tell them what it is if they don't know it.
Well, so Artifexian governance is essentially that the creators, so we hear the starving artist. The artists should not be the ones starving. They are the forerunners. They're the ones that paint the new world. They're the visionaries that see the new, better world, and they want a more inclusive, welcoming society. But if you think about the Disney model of how things are done, the creatives are the ones that are basically used as the slaves. They have their ideas taken. They're told what to say. They're basically, they have the puppets. The way the world is designed for the creatives and forerunners are meant to be other people's puppets. But Artifexian governance celebrates and actually positions the creators, the creator of the product, the creator of the service, the creator of the art, the creator of any form. They're the ones that have they have more power, they have more influence, and essentially they're being paid for what they're worth for their creations. The people that are not the creatives that are bringing all of these amazing ideas and resources to the world, the ones that are not painting a more beautiful world, they have an opportunity to be in service, to help play a supportive role for the creatives, the forerunners. But there's still, no one's enslaved in the system. Everyone's encouraged to live in the purpose they were created for. In fact, there is no hierarchy of control because it's more of a community-based control. Where there is no control, there's a freedom. But also the other belief in the system is, if we are living in the purpose that we're created for, and we are creating, and we're tapping into our imaginations and our intuition to bring these things to life, we don't have time to be racist, homophobic douchebags. We don't have time to judge people and their differences. In fact, we tend to want to celebrate people's uniqueness because we want the fresh perspective. We want the different ideas. We tend to go, maybe you have a point. Maybe I see why you think this way. Maybe this is why you have this perspective. We become inherently more accepting of things that are different when we are truly tapped in to what we're created to do. So in short, there's a lot of ways to explain Artifexian governance, but it benefits the creatives more than it does anyone else. And it removes that controlling slave system. It gets rid of it because there's no place for it. And the people that are rewarded that are not part of the creatives are the ones that support the creatives. But it's still fair, because if it's your idea, if it's your gift, if it's your talent that's bringing to the world, you should be rewarded for that.
I love that.
So again, there's more details. I actually have, if anyone that is curious to take a deep dive in Artifexian governance, on my platform, you can just use the archives, search in Artifexian governance, and it'll pull up stuff for you that you can read about. Is if I'm ever truly made, I don't ever want to run for political office necessarily, because I don't ever want to be controlled. I want to be told what to do. But, the mayor mindset is truly about elevating people into their areas of greatness, their areas of strength. And if you do that, and if you think about it from a collective standpoint, you have strengths. But how many jobs do people ever get where they're able to truly be in their strength? They're typically having to do a bunch of stuff they're not really great at that they had to learn to do. Mm-hmm. I hate that system. I want everyone truly tapping into the purpose they were created for, because then when you put them in position, it makes it easier to collaborate together in areas of strength, and you're a more willing collaborator when you're getting to do what you love. And so then when you look at life's biggest problems, like ending poverty, ending war, well, when you have a group of people operating in their areas of strength, there's a good chance that collectively you can go tackle that issue and solve it. And that's the mindset. It's not an ego thing. It's about supporting creatives to create the way that they are called to create. Because I don't believe those downloads and that wisdom that we get from our creator, from spirit, wherever you think it comes from, I don't believe we get those on accident. And too much, those downloads are silenced or there's no place to put them. And I think that contributes to a lot of the problems that we have. It contributes to hopelessness and purposeless living, where people just basically go through life just like a fart in the wind, you know? So anyway, I'm starting to ramble a little bit, but I'm very refreshed by meeting people like you, because I mean, not just because of our alignment. You shared things here today and perspectives I've never heard before. And I mean, there's so many one-liners that you have that have so much value. I just really, really appreciate your wisdom. I appreciate your willingness to step into faith, to take risks, to willing to step into fear, to face fears, to realize maybe I shouldn't be fearful of that, you know, and it's such a great perspective. And you've offered so much value here today. I can't wait to do this again and maybe take a deeper dive in some other areas. What I would like for you to do, Nathaniel, is you get the last word. I'm not going to say a single thing after this, but I want you to share where people can find you, where they can buy your book, where they can support you in any way that you want to be supported. So plug all your social medias, plug your links, whatever you want to do. They'll also be in the show notes. But then also, because I know you have a lot to say and have a lot on your heart, I would like to give you the opportunity to share anything you want to share. It could be about basket weaving, I don't care. But if you're feeling called to share something in addition to what you're plugging, please do so. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you again, Mr. World's Mayor. It's been an honor to be here. My book is called The Cycle of Kindness. Just anywhere good books are sold. It's on Amazon. You can find more information at just www.thecycleofkindness.com. My company, Cirque Quirk, CirqueQuirk, is available to perform internationally. We do all kinds of benefits, fundraisers, corporate events. We can act as a keynote speaker or even come to your kid's birthday party. My dream is to also help show people some of the wonderful parts of our planet. I sell some of my artwork at Allenby Arts on Shopify, and you can find more about me, Nathaniel Allenby, on social medias. We've got QR codes and links connected to this episode. And I really appreciate all of you listeners coming to the end. And what's actually coming up for me right now that I really want to say is that forgiveness really matters. And it's for us, not just that it is for others. It's not necessarily condoning other people's past actions. It is taking an empowering perspective to no longer be the victim to our past circumstances. And so if there is anyone out there in the world that happens to know me and has listened to this, but is still holding on to some hurt that I've caused them, then I'm deeply sorry. I apologize for anything that I have done that has hurt or negatively impacted anyone ever. Anyone is welcome to come forward and speak to me about any grievance that they have about me, and that I will gladly openly engage in conversation. And that I encourage everyone else to do the same, because a simple apology can mean the world to somebody. Taking responsibility for our actions really matters more now than ever, because bridging a gap for a hurt that we caused can lead to someone else's healing, which can liberate their energy to fuel their creativity and follow their vision, and open them up to be less worried about what they're going to find in the world. Help alleviate people's fear and suffering by apologizing for anything. It could be the smallest, littlest thing, or a big thing that we know really hurts someone. So start there. Take ownership. Do what you can. And thank you for being part of this journey. Let's create the world we want to live in, and we want our kids to live in. Blessings upon all of you on your journey.
Welcome to the Modern Nomad. I'm Nathaniel Allenby. Let's turn survival into an art form. Join me on this journey.